couple of things that I want to start with. First off, again, as a ex-ear, nose, throat doctor, I saw lots of people with lung and sinus problems. Woodworkers tend to get them really seriously because of dust. Dust is dangerous. Dust is bad. When you go into your house after you've been in the shop and you blow your nose and it comes out wood dust colored, you're causing damage to yourself. Wear masks. Have filters going on. Don't breathe dust. I'm not going to sand here today because we're not supposed to breathe the damn dust, okay? Be careful because you only get 2 lungs and they'll never get replaced. Next thing, for grinders, I don't know if any of you have got these. Most people, if they've really looked into it, understand that grinding dust is really bad for you. You should be wearing a mask when you're grinding. Also, you should put magnets on your grinder. Can it pick up? You can get these incredibly strong little magnets. If you just click one down inside, just underneath where the downflow is, what you're going to find is they become absolutely covered with little brown or little black fur as soon as you start grinding. You're breathing that stuff otherwise. Wear a mask, collect the stuff. You don't want it on your floor anyhow. It stains everything and it turns crappy. So throw a couple of magnets on your grinder. It's really easy. It's really fun. All right, that's your safety talk. Next thing I'm going to plug, if you're using power sanding, one of the things that I've got, actually it's from Ralph, who's probably came up with this. Instead of using round discs, which you can buy, or you can make your own, but it's expensive, you can buy rolls of this fuzz-backed adhesive, or you can get what is the Abranet rolls from car detail shops. If you buy a roll like this from Klingspor, you can get a package of like 10 pounds of these little rolls for about $10. And all you do is cut off a 3-inch section of it. You stick it on your little 3-inch pad, or you can buy 5-inch wide things if you're using 5-inch pads. All you have to do is just take a razor knife, you cut off a 3-inch piece, you can throw it over again. You don't have to worry about the rough or the tail ends on these things because they're going to actually just smooth out over the edges anyhow, unless you've got like a really fine detail that you have to not sand at all. It's an incredibly easier way to use sandpaper if you're doing power sanding, and it'll save you a lot of money and a fair amount of time with screwing around. Now to my demo. So I've been turning for probably, 15 years now. I've bought tools from lots of people over the years. I've made some tool handles of my own over the years. What struck me on lots of the different handles that I've bought, whether you buy Doug Thompson's or whether you buy, Sorby stuff, the handles really are not that ergonomic. They don't feel that good to your hand. They're round. Your hand is not really set for holding something in that angle. We had Johannes, I lost his last name. Yeah, Mickelson, come do a demo, and he was selling tool handles, and they're triangular. And actually, if you feel one of these compared to any standard tool, here's a standard. If you feel the difference, it's just immensely easier to grab. And I was sort of thinking about that about the time that I started doing some eccentric spindle turning, and I realized that if you did a eccentric spiral, your handle would actually feel a little bit more comfortable. And so I made a bunch of these 5 or 6 years ago, and I haven't done any since then. So I did a few last week when I was sort of setting this up, and realized that when I had done this before, I had been really careful to make sure that all of the angled cuts were all perfect, again, equal. And when I was doing the setup for this, I realized they don't have to be exact. You don't have to be all that precise about it. What you can do is just turn 3 sides, feel it, decide which really feels better for you, and use that for the orientation of the tool that you put into it. When you make your own, you probably need to put a ferrule, the metal piece that is shown, yeah. I don't know if you can see that. So you put some sort of a metal piece around the outer edge. It gives it a lot more strength. If you don't do that, there's a chance that you can bust off your tool. You don't want to do that. I've got several different sizes that I was going to send around for people to feel and to decide for yourself whether you like the feel of these things or not. I made them slightly different sizes, and I did one left-handed because I thought it would be interesting for people to feel for themselves what really feels like something that you can grab very easily and hold on to firmly, as opposed to just a round bar. It's incredibly easy to do. So in order to make it easy to visualize, I made a big box. If this is the end of your spindle, just look at it. I find it much easier for a tool to come up with about a 1/2 inch outer circle. And if you're going to do 3 axes, you come up with a 1, 2, and 3 axis. And on the opposite side, can you see how it's reversed? So it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, gives you a right-handed. If you do it 1, 2, 3 in the other way, you'll get a left-handed. It's a matter of how you spiral it. Pretty easy to do. What I found easiest to do was just take a 1/2 inch Forstner bit. I just come in on the marked center, go in just far enough. Can you see that? Yeah. So I'm going in just far enough to make a nice 1/2 inch mark. If this is 1, 2, 3, the opposite side. In order to find the points easily enough, since this is a 1/2 inch center, what I'm doing is just going just deep enough to make a dent so I can find it with a point. Can that show? All right. So all I'm doing is just making little divots so that I can find those points.
So right now you're going to do 1 to 1?
Yeah, I just go 1 to 1, change. This one doesn't work. Crap. All right. There. Needed one with a point. So I just start off in the center, and
You're in the center on both sides?
I'm in the center on both sides because I'm just going to round this off a little bit. When you're doing off-center pieces, you want to make sure that you preserve your marks, so you actually don't want to take off an awful lot of wood on the outer edges on either of these until you're done. So in the center, I'm just going to basically do just a quick round off. This is one of Ashley's tools. This is one of her monster handles. It's got an awful lot of weight in it, but my shop is not heated during the winter. And so in order to use this thing, I have to use a glove on both hands. It's Royal Pain. You don't have to get it perfectly round, and I don't care about ridges on this because I'm going to keep turning that stuff away anyhow. So I go first to 1 and 1. Probably everybody knows about ghost imaging. There's a lot more ghost imaging out on the outer edges than there will be in the center. So you have to compensate for that. If you're going to have a relatively smooth tool, you're going to take a little more off in the middle than you do in the outer edges. It's not enough. If this were one that I was really going to keep, I would probably sand each side of it just with a long strip, running it along like that. And because the pieces are irregular, you don't want to hold anything on it. You just want to hold a strip of sandpaper across it while you're sanding. I'm on 1 and 1 first, then I go to 2 and 2. Yep, that's 3 and 3. And that, so then what I wind up doing at this point is feeling to see, does it actually feel like it's what I'm trying to grab hold of properly? This one's probably, I actually got a little bit too aggressive on the second cut, so it's a little bit more second cut than the third, because I wasn't paying much attention. But for me, this feels really pretty good right now. I can grab this really comfortably, and it feels better to me on this side than on that. So this is going to be the tail end of the tool, and this will be the front end of the tool. I'm going to smooth it down just a little bit. So now I'll go back to center. So now what I need to do is make a bump up in the end and then bring it down to have something for the ferrule to get onto.
Now you're back on center. Back on center.
I'm back on center, sorry. Yep. Guess I didn't bring one. Ferrules can be basically any kind of piece of metal you got. These were just a piece of aluminum pipe cut off. This is just a cut off piece of copper pipe fitting. And it's just a 3/4 inch copper pipe. So that's what I need to make this for.
You're working on the ferrule end right now, right?
Yes. And unfortunately, the caliper I could find is a piece of is a plastic one, so I can't turn it on that without ruining it. That is just about there. Normally I'd use a Bedan or something like that for this, but I didn't seem to bring it. Not quite. Traditional answer is cut too much off. So I've just got this cut off piece of copper and fits on.
You have to like cut a slot or a hole in the top first before you put the ferrule in?
I do it the other way because I want to turn it again to to do the bottom. I could do actually I could do that now.
I don't want to change what you're doing.
I could do the bottom now. Of course, if I do that, I can't spin it.
Yeah, don't change because of me. I was just asking. Don't mess them up.
Yeah.
You be you, Pete.
Somewhere in here, there's a knife. Yeah, I gotta find the knife. It's a new bottle of glue. It's gonna be pain. I got a new bottle of glue out today. What a stupid idea. I realized that my glue in in my workshop was going to be freezing cold, so I grabbed a new bottle out of the basement.
Here, you can put that back together.
Yeah. Did, all right. Yeah.
5-minute epoxy, right?
Yep. Just got to do something to get it to hold on. Okay. Yeah, well, that's working.
Are you back to centers?
Back to center. Just gonna make the tail end of this a little bit better. Okay, so I need to feather that edge in a little bit, and I still have a little bit of uncleaned. So at this point, I would sand this back down again. I'm going to flip it so I can deal with the ferrule. Hopefully, it's glued enough by now. This edge was just cut off on a Sawzall, so I'm going to basically clean up this end and make this a little bit prettier looking and taper that in. And my glue is not dry. Yeah, forget that. So it's a little like a pen bushing. You want to just bring it down in and make it smooth. And then with a little bit of sandpaper on the copper. Glue's not set.
You were doing good until Doug started asking questions.
Nah, that'll do. That's got to come down just a little bit more. So at this point, I would probably cut this off, but I'm going to work on, that's something that any of you can do. Another thing that Doug Thompson and a couple of the other tool makers do is that they put lead shot in the tail end of the handle, and what it does is it gives you a lot more stability in terms of vibration. Wood is not that heavy compared to something like this, but if you were trying to do that, you could just bore a half-inch hole down to about here, fill it with lead shot, put a little piece of wood in, glue it in. You can do essentially the same thing, and what you'll do is make this thing about 1.5 pounds heavier.
I just got kind of a statement. Having had kids in Scouts, they make these for the Pinewood Derby. They make these, I think they're about 1/2 inch diameter, and they're just a rod of lead.
Oh.
So rather than shot, maybe that is a solution to it. So I don't shot might.
Good idea.
That's going to move, right?
Repeat that, Pete, what he said.
So the Scouts have, for their Pinewood Derby, they have 1/2 inch lead rods that they stick in as weights. And you could stick in that and it would give you a solid thing. I asked Doug Thompson about that one time, and he said that he liked the lead shot because when it was really vibrating, rather than a piece of solid, because I asked him why he didn't just pour in solid, and he said that the shot took a little bit more of the vibration out. I don't know if that's really true or not, but the other thing is that I found lead shot really easily. I never looked for that. That's probably more important if you're doing something like a detail gouge or something. What I'm going to do today is just a super thin cutoff with basically using a Sawzall blade. It's one of my favorite cutoff tools. It's a 1/16 of an inch deep. If you have any friends who use Sawzalls, they discard these darn blades all the time. I mean, they're entirely disposable, and you don't really need fancy new fresh ones. What you really want is one of the ones that's at least bimetallic, so that it's fairly strong. Almost any of those, if you're grinding it on one of the high-end wheels, you probably shouldn't be doing that, a lot of grinding on that as opposed to on a stone. But I'm still dealing with stones on one side, so I just use stone grinding for that and any of the cheap steel. But over the years, I've bought a whole bunch of little pieces of M2 steel that I've turned into custom-made tools, and cheap handles like this. I don't know, piece of this cost about 23 cents or something. So what I do to figure out, other than cutting this off, what I do to figure out next for a tool orientation is I just turn it around and I feel which side really feels good to me, and that's going to be my upside. Can you see this? So this is basically just a old metal Sawzall blade that got mostly worn out. I ground off the bottom teeth here. I ground a little bit of an edge so that when this is in, it will give me an easy profile. These have flex to them, so when you're using them, you actually have to make sure you're absolutely upright. If you start wobbling, you'll bend the blade. It's okay, they're disposable. I don't know if you can you get that to show? Sure, I got the right side. Yeah, okay, this is my up. So this is my up, and you can't really see the markers anymore, but so I've drilled those. If you are dealing with a round tool like a a piece of tool steel, you only have to do a single hole, but since I'm going to do a linear one, I'm just going to use the side of my drill bit. All right, so all I did was just make a slot that this will fit in, and if I were doing this real, I would probably go further so that I could bury it further in. But basically, that goes into there and leaves me a tool that I can use this way. And what I would use normally is not 5-minute epoxy for this. I'd use a longer duration epoxy. I fill the hole with that stuff and then just squeeze my tool in and make sure that I've set it as far in as I want it to be. But I would probably want to set it in 2 to 3 inches so that it's really beyond the ferrule, so that it's really strong. That's a lot more important when you're dealing with like something like a bowl gouge. Something like a bowl gouge, I'd probably want to bury 5 inches or so. I would want to have enough strength so that it's really there. And these are, you know, real simple way to make a tool.
So why the longer set epoxy?
Because it'll really soak all the way down into the fibers all the way around, and
Okay.
it'll absolutely encapsulate this really solidly. 5-minute epoxy, I'm not sure is really going to soak in
Okay.
properly. And you only need, I don't know, you know, 40 drops or something like that. You're not going to need very much of the stuff, but it's really easy to make a tiny bit of epoxy. And you could use Alumilite or any of the other epoxies for that. You could probably use any high-end glue if you want. The advantage to the epoxies is if you really decide later on with something like this that you want to just change the blade out, you can actually just heat it up with a torch, put it in, and epoxy kind of softens up with heat, and you can pull it out and change the blade. The other advantage is you've got a saw here, so when you've got a piece mostly off, you don't have to go find your saw. You just saw it right off. So that's what I do with these things.
Quick comment. The multi-axis offset turning that you do, there's a lady on YouTube named Barbara Dill, like Dill's in the pickle. She is like the queen of offset turning. She goes into the details too much, I think, of how
Yeah.
For those,
Offset stuff is really amazing.
for the people online, he was saying that Barbara Dill has a whole online channel for offset turnings and multi-axis stuff. And then also the other comment was from Terry Leifers was that you can get Sawzall blades that are twice as thick, like a construction grade. So for the people who wondered what he was talking about. Demolition Sawzall. Pardon me? Barbara's book. Okay, we're pitching Barbara's book also. We probably have it in our library.
I have a signed copy if anybody's interested.
If you want to buy a signed copy, Dave's got one for sale.
So, does anybody like the left-handed side one better than the right? Do we have any lefties in the group? Could you tell a difference when you were? Feel a difference, yeah. So you can make, you know, this would probably be thinner ultimately than I would really want. But the thing is that it's so easy to turn these things. You basically just, you know, make it to fit your hand, and it's really comfortable.
I have a question.
All right.
Okay.
Give him a big hand. All right, I guess at this point that concludes our meeting.